So, family struggles, family dynamics is a very complicated topic, especially in the beginning of your spiritual awakening journey. I remember when I first began my awakening, I struggled a lot with my family, and so I know that even through interacting with other people, with my clients, with other friends who are spiritual, family dynamics is a very important topic that comes up. When you begin to wake up, you begin to experience a lot of turmoil with your past, whether they be your friends or whether they be your family. For this video, I'm going to be focusing on family struggles and my story about how I was able to break away from my family, create boundaries, and then also establish a whole new relationship with my family. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. But for now, if you are struggling with your family, you're trying to break away, you're trying to figure out how you can progress in your journey, evolve, but also still be a part of your family, this is going to be an important video for you. So first off, I want to say that I think one of the biggest struggles for me was being able to let go and walk away from my family. I think one of the things I feared the most was leaving them behind, leaving my family behind, the people that I grew up with, the people that cared for me for, the 18 years of my life, the people that loved me, and, being able to go on my journey and having to let them go, having to walk away. That was my greatest struggle. And it's the thing that I think a lot of people struggle with. And especially even recently, maybe like a year and a half ago, or maybe 2 years ago, I think about a year and a half ago, I tripped on mushrooms. And that was one of the main things that I was sad about, was the fact that, hey, I don't want to leave my family behind. I really love my sisters. They're struggling, and I hope I could just help them out and take them through their path and solve their problems, because that's really what I want to do. But after that, I realized that I have to walk away, that the only way to do it is to let them go and trust in the universe. So that's to emphasize kind of the emotional aspect of this video. And I will tell you that things are better now, but let's get into the phenomenon specifically. In Jungian psychology, Carl Jung talks about the separation from the herd. When we are all, from a very young age, we operate from very herd mentality. We have to survive. We have to be accepted into the herd, or else we'll be abandoned. We look at animals, and if you are outcasted, it basically means death. So being a part of something larger, being a part of our family, and then being a part of society, it's a very integral, very essential to our survival. So first off, that's a very powerful emotion and survival instinct that we have. And so as we grow and we develop, we become much more accustomed to society, and that allows us to be able to go through our lives and basically function in society. It allows us to make friends. It allows us to just build a network, build a support network around us, and it allows us to feel connected, which is essential to our mental health. So early on, we have this desire and this need for connection with people, and acceptance and validation, and that is completely fine. But through your journey, if you have ever faced a spiritual awakening, or if you're going through one right now, you will realize that you will almost feel pushed to walk away from society. You might feel like you don't feel happy around your friends, you don't feel happy around your family. And I think that was the main thing that happened to me, which was that there were a lot of things that my family was doing which I didn't agree with. I was all about spirituality, self-improvement, self-development. So there were things that I was working on with myself, and things like, specifically, I just didn't like people lying and deception and self-deception, more importantly. So whenever I would see my family struggle, and one of the main reasons being that they're not being real with each other, I would just get pissed off. And at first I would fight it a lot. I would be very involved. I'd be very, very involved in the drama. I'd go and sit with my mom, and we'll talk and we'll conversate, and she'll tell me what's going on, and I'll give her some advice, etc. And I'll be there and I'll listen. And for a good while, I was doing that. And then with my with my dad, we didn't really have any talks really. But I suffered because I would see my family and I would see their struggle, and I would, feel bad because I know the solution in my head. I have the solution. The solution is look into yourself, look within, and that's the main thing that I preach since then on, since the beginning of my journey, which has been meditate, self introspect, really self reflect, and so telling that to my parents kind of would throw them off, and and so it was mainly, I think the biggest struggle was with my mom, but later on it also became a struggle with my sisters. But yeah, so that's the phenomenon. And I think the main reason you're struggling is because you feel like you need to, you need to fix things, or you have the solutions but they don't want to take it. And you also don't want to be around those kinds of people, and those kinds of people being the people who lie to themselves, who aren't authentic, who aren't real. And so that is a very valid point. And I think it's a point from your soul that's calling you, hey, you're living like this, you want to connect to your real self, and you shouldn't be around people who aren't in alignment with that, whether they be your friends or whether they be your family. I think one of the things that I often hear that a lot of people in families that they struggle with is this idea that because we have known each other for so long, or because they have taken care of me for so long, it's almost like there's this sense of guilt that I have to stay with them and I have to fight through it, and that we have to stick together, especially with Hispanic families. It's like a big thing where, like, because we've known each other, we're family, and because we're family, we're gonna stick together, and no matter what, we gotta love each other and we gotta be there for each other. And those are one of the main things that I faced. And hey, maybe you're from a different family. Maybe you're Mexican. Maybe you're not Mexican. Maybe you're American. And I can see how with Americans it's not as together as Mexican families. I feel like Mexican families are very like tight knit and very emotional in that sense, versus American families which I have seen might be a blind judgment, but there's not so much of an emphasis on the emotional aspect of a relationship. It's more on the physical and the mental. But yeah, that's one of the struggles that I had with the family. And I think, everybody who goes through a spiritual awakening experiences this to a degree. They and it might not have to be specifically with the family, but when it pertains to this video, you might feel, for example, like, I don't want to be around my family, or I want to be alone. I want to move away. I want to, I don't want to go to family gatherings. I don't want to go to the parties. I don't want to go hang out with, like, I just don't want to be around my family. It's like really what it ends up to. And some people, they can manage and they could just hang out and then leave, which is great. But other people, they just have to exit. They just have to not be there. And for me, it took on, the latter. That's how it was for me, which was I just did not want to be around my family. I did not want to go to the house. And it led to some issues because my mom would be like, where are you? We haven't talked. Why aren't you coming to the house? Why don't you come see me? Do you not love me? So that's kind of where it went. And I would tell my parents, like, I just don't want to be here. I think it got to the point where I got tired and I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, all you guys do is talk about your problems, and all you guys do is, like, I don't know, like, you don't solve them. My mom would often complain to me about my dad or my sisters, and so I would tell her, like, look, and she'd go on rants. It was freaking hard because it would be rants and it'd be emotional and she'd cry, and then and I think there was this dependence from my mom onto me, this expectation that I would be sort of like her savior. It's very, I guess I could say, like, a very I want to say like a Freudian dynamic where she projected the God, she projected the Father onto me in some way, which is, I'm not gonna go into that right now, maybe in the future video. But basically, my personal experience with it was I'm going home, and all that would happen would be like drama or problems, or I just wouldn't like how my sisters would act, like the way they solved their problems, a lot of self-deception, a lot of lying even to the other person. So it got to the point where I couldn't be in the house. I didn't want to go to the family gatherings. Especially because I just felt very restricted. I think that's the main reason, and the main reason you can struggle is because you feel like you can't be yourself around them. For me, like, I think one of the main things was I felt like I couldn't speak my truth, and that was the biggest problem. I think if I was able to talk my shit basically to my parents and call them out more often, that I would have been fine. And I think also though, I was at the point where I was like, yo, you guys need to work on this, and I don't want to be around you guys until you work on this. I think that's where it got to. So it got to this point where I'm like showing up and it's the same issues, and I just didn't want to be around that anymore. And I think there was a point I remember I was like, my mom just telling me like, why are you so angry? You're always angry when you come to the house. You're always frustrated. Where's my son from like 2 years ago when he was all about dancing and partying and like, being the life of the party and all that? Because I was that, and I still am that. That's still within me, but I have other things that I want to do. And I told my mom, I was like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I'm still that person, but now there's like more to me. And I think that's the biggest thing. Also, one of the bigger things, which is people wanting to confine you to a specific box. So like, I think this is also another issue that people face, which is, like your friends and your family will always remember you for a specific person. They'll like to put you into a box. And what I say is, if they can't accept you as you're growing, then it's going to be really hard for you to be able to connect with them. If they can't like acknowledge that, not that person is dead, that the old person, but that box is limited. If they can accept that, then there will be a much greater opportunity to connect with each other. So I think that's another big problem where the family they have these expectations of you. They put you in this box and they want you to live by that. So that was another experience. And so let me get into now, like, what to do. How do you deal with all this? And there's a few different ways to deal with this. And we're going to go from the minimal to the extreme. And the minimal being, you cut off some time. You cut off your time with them. You don't hang out with them as much, and you create boundaries. They can be physical boundaries where you don't hang out with them, for like specific amounts of time. Or they can be like mental boundaries where you decide to tune out of conversations, or you decide to, to just not put you decide to not put such a big emphasis on what your family thinks. I think that's a big issue, because the more there's also another aspect. Like, do you recognize the value that you have, or that your inner voice has over your family's voice? Because at the end of the day, your family's going to be like, I know you more than you do because you grew up with me. And I think that I've heard that even thrown around. It's like, that's bullshit, first off, because you can only know a person to the extent that you know yourself. So if your mom is a very understanding person, or your parents or your siblings, if they are very, understanding about themselves or working on themselves, then hey, they might have some very valuable information. But if they don't understand themselves to the level that you understand yourself, then their opinion really doesn't matter. And I think that goes to the case with like everybody else in the world. Like any other endeavor that you go into, taking other people's opinions, etc., you have to really consider that. So that's important to remember. But going back to the minimal approach entails you creating boundaries, and them being small boundaries, and them being manageable boundaries. Somehow you can still, because you have like this person, and then you have then this person and then you have your family. So like, as you grow and expand, you kind of want to be able, like, this is like the minimal approach would be you kind of molding these two together, and hopefully you create enough boundaries where you can still grow without this holding you back. But if we have to take it up a notch, most often you do have to take it up a notch, which is like you completely isolate. And complete isolation doesn't mean forever. It just means like, you just don't hang out with them, and you just hardly hang out. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy or dramatic. It's just, you just walk away. You just don't engage in the activities. Hey, I'm busy. Like, I have this thing that I'm working on, or I don't want to go to that party. Like, I don't want to hang out. You just don't have to go out. You just don't have to hang out. You're working on something. And I think one of the there's a lot of other things to be considered here, but when you're working on yourself, you only have time for the things that matter to you. So I think that sometimes, if you're growing here and this is here too, this could take away from your growth, and that's not what you want to do. So isolation, moving away, is gonna have to be one of the best things you can do. Just don't show up to the gatherings. Don't go in there too much. But I want to talk about a third point, which is, I think, the most difficult thing. It kind of is an integration between creating boundaries and then also complete isolation, which is learning to speak your truth. And I think that is the biggest thing that I will always push, because I realize that the moment I let my family know, hey, this is who I am, this is where I'm at. I know you guys think that I'm changing, that I'm weird, that all these things, and yeah, I am changing, and I am feeling a little weird because I'm becoming a new person. I'm realizing things. I'm going through things that I'm awakening to who I truly am. So that means that, and this isn't even going into like religion and if you come from a religious background and all of these things, like, look, at the end of the day, if your family cannot sit down and listen to you, then you gotta understand that it's not gonna happen. You're not gonna be able to work with them. It's gonna be very difficult to work with them. So like, at the end of the day, what do you want when you're growing? What do you want when you're developing yourself? You want people that support that and that give you the space to be able to do that, to be vulnerable. And if you cannot be vulnerable with your family, if they want to be dogmatic about their ways, you have to just cut them off, bro. And the thing that I would say, though, is that you can cut them off, but at the same time, if you can stay very fervently centered within yourself, and this might take some time, maybe you're not ready for this, but if you can stay very centered within yourself and you can call out the bullshit, first off, hey, you're not listening to me, you don't allow me to be myself, you don't allow me to be vulnerable, it's only about you, it's always about you. If you can't, you have to be able to call out the bullshit. That's the first thing. And then you have to be able to speak your truth, which is, hey, this is really what I want. This is the relationship that I want to create with you. If you want to create that relationship, if that's something that you want, this is the relationship that I am willing to have with you. If that's not what you want, then sorry, I cannot be with you, because I'm not going to work this other relationship that I have with you. So being able to tell people what you want, because guess what? You deserve that. At the end of the day, your family did their job. Like, especially if they derive a lot of validation from you, if they put a lot of expectations on you, that means that they derive a lot of validation from you. So the higher the expectations, the higher the dependency. So when you change, they will freak the fuck out. So what you gotta understand is that this is gonna be almost like an awakening for themselves too. So let them know, hey, I think you put too much expectation on me. I think that you don't let me live my life. I think that you want to live through me, or I think that you're just depending too much on me. I think that you should be more self-sufficient. And I appreciate you for being my parent, or I appreciate you for being my brother and sibling. I appreciate you for being there for me. But right now, I need to be there for myself. And me being with you, it has become a problem. It's very difficult for me to be with you, to hang out with you, to interact with you, because I feel like there's all these things that you need to work on. There's all these things that you're putting on me that is not healthy. And there needs to be space. So, that's an example of how you would communicate. So like I said, call it the bullshit, and you could do it very, very, very direct. It doesn't have to be mean. It doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be some, crazy, like, angry response. Just call out the bullshit. What do you not like? What do you think? What makes you uncomfortable? And then the next point is speak your truth. What do you really want? What can we create? And then the third point, I think, is really just planning and making the decisions. Like, okay, you don't want this relationship, or you don't want to do this. Hey, this is what I'm willing to do. We can meet up, and it'll have to be in a different location, and it'll have to be with a different purpose, and we'll only talk about these things. This is where you create the boundaries. This is a boundary creation. It's like, if you don't want to meet me there, then this is what I'm willing to give, but not more than that. And I'll give you a good example. I remember when I talked to my mom, I've had issues, like, my mom wanted me to date specific people, and she wouldn't like, for example, like my girlfriend, or she just wasn't very knowledgeable about who I was dating, and so she wanted me to be with somebody in specific. And so I told my mom, like, look, if you cannot accept this woman, and then this was when I was talking to my mom about my wife, I was like, if you continue to have pictures of my ex-girlfriend on this wall, she wasn't even my girlfriend, she was a girl I dated. If you continue to have pictures of my ex, I will not be bringing my children to this house, because I'm going to have children with this woman. She's going to be my wife. I already proposed to her. So if you keep having pictures of her, I'm going to keep having pictures of this girl that I dated. I'm going to not bring my children here. Also, I will not have you be integrated into our family. My family is my family. This is my family that I created. So if you want to be a part of that, it has to be on my terms, because I'm not going to be letting my children be influenced by you until you can accept the conditions that I have created for my family. So I told my mom, look, if you can't accept that, I'm sorry, you're not gonna be a part of the family. You're not gonna be a part of you're not gonna be a grandma. Like, I'm not gonna bring my children to you. And yeah, it's just a hard line. Like, this needs to stop. And I told her, it's like, I want you to be a part of my family. I want you to be a part of it, like, for sure. But I'm doing it my way. And I'm living my life my way. And I'm not gonna let you come in and just do all these things that don't make any sense. It's like you disrespect me, So that's one example, right? I'll talk about another example, which was previous to that. I remember one time when my mom was talking to me. She was going to therapy. She began going to therapy because I would mention that to her a lot, and I told her, like, you just need to go see a therapist, and she did. So that's progress, right? Like, through these interactions that my mom has, worked on it, and I'm so happy about that. But during one of our talks, I sat down with her and I told her, hey, Mom, I just don't see you as my mother, like just my mother. I see you as a friend, also as a sister, or as just a human being. And I think that allows me to create a better relationship with you, because now I'm not just confined to being a son. Now I can help you in different ways, or we can connect in different ways. But when I told my mom that, bro, like, she freaked out. She was just crying. She took it to heart. She took it personal. I was like, look, I don't know what to do. I'm not gonna succumb to feeling bad, to feeling guilty. Nope, I'm done with that. I know that's not gonna serve me. So, I walked away and I told her my truth. But later on, she talks to the therapist about it, and the therapist helped her with it. And I'm so glad that I was able to tell her that, because I think that she then began to change her perception of reality. And so I want to talk about, like, this has been a process of like 4 years, like, ever since I began my journey. And there's been many changes in my family. And I want to say that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. If you struggle, there's a lot of things you're going through, with your family. I think the best thing is, like I said, like, if you can't handle the intensity of speaking your truth, build yourself up to the point where you know yourself a little more, where you understand your truth, and walk away from your family. Hey, I need a break. I need some time. And once you feel ready to speak your truth, go and tell them. I know that internally you have to kind of break away to cut the ties of dependency. It's about cutting the ties of dependency. It's not about cutting your family off completely, but it's about not having your family's beliefs hinder your growth. Because a lot of the times we do become dependent on our family's opinions. But it's about not being tied to it and being able to proceed onto your own development and growth. And then next, so get to the point where you can develop yourself, where you can speak your truth. And when you're ready, go and speak to your family, explain to them the situation, and then continue to build from there. Because this has taken me over like 4 to 5 years. And, I was afraid in the beginning, because I was like, man, I was so unhappy or so sad about the fact that I didn't have a family. But I understood and I knew it within my heart. I was like, yes, like, your family isn't where you want them to be. And, things aren't great. But at the end of the day, you're going to create your own family. You have the power to do that. And that's been the thing that I've done. Like, if you don't have something that you like, if you don't like where you're at with your friends, you don't like where you're at with your family, you can always create a new family, a new form of friendship Like, you can always do that. You always have the ability to do that. So me, I took that to heart, and I found my wife, who was my dream wife, and I created my own family. Now we have a kid. We have our own baby boy. So you have that power. You know, it's gonna take time, and at the end of the day, though, it's not about them. It's about you. It's about you, you know, going off and developing yourself and building yourself up. Because guess what? Like, now I'm a leader within the family. Like, my parents look to me for advice. They come to me when they're struggling, and they see me as somebody that's wise. They see me as somebody that is wise beyond his years, and they understand the work that I put into myself, and so they respect my opinion a lot. And so, yeah, like, it's almost like I become my mom's coach now too, because I have my clients and I'm a coach, but I become my mother's coach too, and she's developed herself, and she's began to break away from her own family beliefs, which is beautiful. And so yeah, so like, let your growth speaks for itself. Let it happen, and continue to speak your truth, and continue to build yourself up, and continue to believe in your power to create your own reality. And if you can do that, then at the end of the day, your family will come back. Your family will come to you, you know, because at the end of the day, it doesn't serve you to stay stuck there trying to solve their issues while, you know, because it's only gonna take away time from your development. I used to be afraid, because I was like, you know, I'm gonna leave my family, I'm gonna leave my sisters, I'm gonna abandon them, and how am I gonna do this? How can I grow and leave my family behind? But, you know, that feeling, I know it was a deep fear of mine, and I didn't know that until, you know, a year ago. But understand that, don't be afraid. You know, I'm telling you that your family loves you, and although they don't understand you, they will eventually. Once they see the work that you have put in, they will see the peace of mind, the clarity in your actions, the stability in your responses. They will see that, and they will recognize, like, okay, I don't know what it is, but this person, he's actually working, or she's actually working on herself, and she's actually doing great. You know, if you continue to create in this world, you know, continue to develop yourself, they will respect you, and more importantly, they will respect the fact that you were able to do it on your own, and you didn't care who it was that, you know, that you had to let go, but you did it for yourself, so that in the end you can come back and be able to serve, and to speak your truth, and to guide them also. So I have become a light for my family, and you can do that too. But for now, if you're struggling, put your focus on building yourself up, and create those boundaries, continue to speak your truth, and eventually your family will catch up. I promise you that. So if you have any questions pertaining to this video specifically, make sure to drop them down below. Any specific family struggles. But aside from that, that's it for this video. Thank you for tuning in. Or you already know, stay lucid. Peace out.